Life isn't perfect, and neither are we.
Nope. But we know how to face our fears
And have some fun.
and talk about all the messiest things of life.
Like the messiest things.
Get connected to yourself, get connected to others, and get connected to the life right in front of you.
This is The Connected Life with Justin and Abi.
That's me.
That's you.
And you.
What's up?
Oh, did we start already?
Oh, yeah.
And you're chomping on that app. You're going to make people listen to you. Ugh.
Oh, that's
Ugh.
delicious.
Stop chewing in the
Honey
mic.
Crisp.
I can
was just gonna
literally
say,
hear the
what?
juices in your mouth.
Oh, that's a weird way to start this, isn't it? Joe Rogan always, like, when he records, they do stuff like drink whiskey and you can hear the ice in the glass and all that stuff.
That feels like a cooler sound.
I'm adding realism to our podcast.
Do you know that there's actually like a disorder where they can't handle the sound of chewing?
Yeah.
Or the sound of, like, you just
Is that a
destroyed
thing?
all of our listeners.
It's a disorder. Is it like face blindness? I guess
What is
Brad Pitt
face
has face blindness. Yeah.
What's face blindness?
It's like he doesn't register faces and can't remember them. Maybe that's where Jennifer Aniston and Angelina Jolie just like.
Justin.
Well, I'm just saying. Maybe there was like, oh, I really thought this was Jennifer. Sorry, apparently it's Angelina Jolie.
It'd have to be body blindness for that. that's a different story.
Well, I heard that story. I don't know if it's true, but I was reading up on
But
it.
he has face blindness. That story is what you're saying.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I don't know if it's true.
You know, that's a crazy thing.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't surprise me. Our brains are capable of so many things. Just a little injury could ruin a lot.
It really could. That mic's pretty close to your face.
Is that
There you go.
is that the right?
Yeah, that's better.
The right amount?
That's better. Hey, well, you're all listening out there. If you're wondering, like, what is it? What does it look like where they're at? What are they doing? And I was like, well, we're in our podcast room for those of you who just happen to have that thought on your mind. And Abby looks like a hot mess. She looks like she just crawled out of bed after like a 3-day bender. And that's okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not putting her down.
No.
I don't have hair, so I wouldn't complain about her looks. Like, I'm so bald now. And she didn't buy into that because she didn't know that hair was going to disappear when she got into
You know what? Honestly, if I would have met you and you showed me a picture of you bald versus you with hair and said, "Do you want to marry this man?" I would have said, "Only once he shaves his head."
Really? Really?
I just find you so attractive.
Man, that's awesome.
Like,
That's
I
awesome.
mean, I liked your hair. Don't get me wrong; it's fine. But
Yeah.
I like find myself much more attracted to you now.
Oh, that's cool.
I feel like
I'm still attracted to you. You find what? Bald men so sexy? She finds bald so sexy that she demands that I shave my entire body.
That's not true.
And she likes me oiled up like a Frenchman, and like I just like this human slip and slide. That's what she
That
loves.
is actually what I ask for every single time you take a shower. Slip and slide up.
Slip and slide up. And all that to say, I still think you're attractive right now in this moment. And you guys might be thinking, wow, they're really going after looks and stuff like that today. But we're going to go after what makes somebody attractive.
We're going to talk about attraction because
What is the attractor factor? And we guarantee you listen to this podcast. Well, I can't actually slap a guarantee on that. You might have a better chance. We'll say you might have a better chance of attracting someone or keeping somemeone after this podcast.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say is I actually have been in several conversations lately with married people who've talked to me about not feeling attracted to their spouse or like attraction going up
Who
and
you
down.
be talking to? Ooh.
Not going to say. Molly. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know Molly. But I had to try to think of a name that I couldn't think of anybody that I actually knew.
You don't know a Molly.
It's true. But I think people don't really understand some core concepts about attraction. And I think most people feel like it's this invisible thing that you either have towards someone or you don't. And there's not things you can do to grow in attraction or and then I think people feel powerless to attraction. I know inside of marriage, you can feel powerless. Like if something's going on and you're not feeling attracted to your spouse, it can feel powerless to know what to do and how to work through that. And then outside of that, you have all the single people who are trying to figure out the attraction game.
Yeah.
And
how to attract your hot, sexy, steamy lover.
Yeah. That's what the name of this episode is going to be called.
Well, that's a good idea.
How to attract your hot, sexy, steamy lover.
Oh, I like it.
But, you know, and there's so many questions even inside of single people I know of, am I attracted to this person? How much do I need to be attracted to this person? There's a lot of questions around attraction. So we're not going to answer every single question because it'd be impossible. I think we could do a whole episode on singleness and figuring out how much attraction you need. We should maybe do that. But this is going to be kind of like a foundation of whether you're single or married, understanding the components that go in to building connection.
And to creating attraction. Yeah.
So you want me to start?
Well, you know, I was kind of thinking like, do we have a conversation around practicalities first? Simple. I think that, let me say this. At face value, culture has a standard of handsomeness and beauty that's considered attractable. And I can understand there's some level of that. I watch a lot of people chase those things. And even when they catch them, whether they become that or they land someone that fits inside of that cultural category, they can become very bored with it. And then they can be like, oh, maybe they needed to be more physically attractive or whatever, and they'll move on. But I do believe that there is something to the practicality of taking care of oneself. Having a type of self-worth. Like I've had women have dialogues with me where they're like, I'm really not attracted to my husband. And one aspect of it is like, I can see a man that is actually pretty physically attractive, but he's hiding behind wardrobes that are just terrible because he really doesn't care, and haircuts he never gets, and he's not participating in it doesn't mean like it has to be a certain style or expression, but he's actually not participating in taking care of himself in a way that he's like, oh, I actually care about my well-being, my expression of my well-being and how I show up to daily life. It doesn't mean like today, you know, we talked about you crawling out of bed. I'm still very attracted to you, but my attraction isn't solely based on this. But if you never took care of yourself at all, I'd be like, I can feel your unworthiness about your own self-worth. Like that place where something is insecure inside of you and you don't want to show up to participating inside of it. And I think that,
I mean, it'd be helpful mentioning that you weren't attracted to me sometimes.
I wasn't.
When we got on our honeymoon is when you told me that, which I would not recommend for other spouses out there.
I would like to think that there's a lot of nuance to that dialogue that's just being left out of it. And it's fine. We can leave it out of the equation, but there's so much more to it. But there was a thing where I could see that you weren't embracing your beauty.
Yeah.
And there was that expression of hiddenness,
I was hiding,
even physically, in the way that you manifested it in your clothing or the way that you'd...
Oh, the way I carried myself. Like there was so much self-hatred, insecurity, trying to hide.
Well, you weren't embracing your femininity.
Yeah.
Like it was this thing of like, you were scared of it. You didn't think that it was adequate enough. Am I wrong when I say that?
Yeah. And I mean, I think I would say that I think every human has the capacity to shine. And I think that a lot of our trauma coping mechanisms and things that we do to protect ourselves can cover over and hide the part of us that is made to shine. And so there was a lot of ways that I was purposefully, like if you think about like a rock that's glowing, I like, you know, wrapped it in like some bags and then
tinfoil
and then threw some like lumpy fabric around it, and you know, like there and purposefully. I mean, and this is one of those purity culture really drilled into me that it was my job.
Define purity culture.
So growing up in a culture that basically blamed the way women dressed and looked on if men had lust or not.
Sexual lust, desires.
Yeah.
You would fan their loins and get them burning if you.
Yeah. I mean, I remember growing up thinking like the worst thing ever is if a guy stumbles.
Ooh,
and it's my fault.
That means
if
that
stumbles.
that something inside of his soul has said, I've gone out of this place of purity and I've moved into this lustful desire for your body.
Yeah. So, I mean, like there was that. And then I had a lot of self-hatred. I had this belief that if I was seen, people would see all of the fucked up stuff about me. And so there was a fear. I had to work through years to become a speaker. I had so much fear of being seen.
Oh, yeah.
So much fear of criticism. It was debilitating. And so I had to work through a lot of fear of being seen, not being seen. Like I had that just one-on-one. Like, and sometimes I still have it. Sometimes I'll watch and my shoulders will crump down and I can see that I'm hiding. And sometimes I still feel like, oh, I don't want to put my shoulders back and walk confidently because I don't want to draw attention. I don't want to, it's an interesting, but it's just very, very subtle things. And then, like I think lots of people have gone through, for me, I had some scenarios that weren't fun with men's sexuality. And so I think it got easier to just
hide.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's very easy to manifest insecurity about stuff in the way that we express ourselves externally.
Oh, I think we wear energy.
Yeah.
On us. I think we and this feels Angelina Jolie that you brought up earlier feels like a great example. She wears some kind of sexual energy on her. And then there's people who wear, nerdy energy, or there's people who wear neutral energy. Like you don't feel any sexuality from them.
Yeah.
There's people who wear like nice girl energy, there's like you are constantly emitting. There's both like how you are seen and there's how you're experienced.
Yeah.
And so I think people can end up having energy, which this makes me think about a season in our marriage where you had gained some weight. I
was a fat turd.
No, you were not. No.
I can say that as a former fat kid. I can.
No.
I can. And I mean that in a non-judgmental way. I had like gained so much weight, but I was really sick. And when I say I was a fat turd, and I'm like, I hated myself. That's what I mean by that.
Okay, that makes way more sense.
Is what I'm communicating. Like as I put on my weight, I had this deep judgment and self-hatred about the weight. You
were a fat turd.
Exactly.
That's what you thought.
And that's what I'm communicating in it. So I was like, I had that fat turd energy that like, oh, I'm worthless. I'm just fat. Like it wasn't super conscious.
No,
it was it wasn't like I was constantly in my head ruminating about it. But when I got really sick, I put on, I think it was like 45 pounds. As the biggest I'd ever been. I looked at pictures and I was like, where did Justin go? Inside of it. But in the journey, you were progressively becoming unattracted to me. But it wasn't because of the weight.
No.
I actually, in a lot of ways, I look like a stocky, man bod.
Like a football player.
Very stocky football player. But I had that judgment that was woven into my childhood that in a lot of ways I had dealt with because I had been made fun of so much for my weight.
Totally.
And I had consumed self-rejection and external rejection inside of that. And it kept perpetuating. And there are ways that I really dealt with it and became okay with my body at different weights. But then when there was this, excessive weight gain, I hit a new level of wrestling with myself inside of that space. But I constantly was feeling some level of insecurity in my clothing and inside of my body. And I was like, there was like unconscious moving to consciousness of like, oh, I'm probably not desirable. I even got to a place where I didn't want to be naked in sex. Like I didn't want to take my clothes off in front of you because I could see like all of these things. And so I was wearing my relationship with judgments, my relationship with self-hatred. And
and I remember like you didn't want to shop and get good, like, because I'm like, yeah, you can do a lot with anybody. Like I and this is something practical. We're going to talk about the emotional components. We're going to trigger everybody with the practical conversation. Then we're going to give them the good stuff about the emotional components.
And if you're triggered about me talking about my weight process, that's something that you need to look into and go, oh yeah, do I actually have judgment about my body and stuff that I'm not willing to look at, and it feels like a topic that I don't want to talk about? Because that was something that was very triggering for me through those seasons where I didn't really want to have a full-on dialogue. I wanted to bury it and just like, I just can't, because
you wanted to avoid it.
I wanted to avoid it.
Costs.
And I was especially feeling super out of control because I didn't have the capacity to work out, or I didn't have whatever, my body kept shut. So I felt out of control. And that's what a lot of us feel. We're using like physical body stuff right now in this. And there's other places where people feel wildly out of control. It might be finances. And you have that judgmental word where I use the language like, I felt like a fat turd. That was my harsh judgment. You might have something like, I'm a loser in this area or whatever. You have to start discovering what is the judgments I'm holding towards myself that is projecting rejection and actually keeping me from being desirable to someone else. Because again, Abby's ability to desire me was cut off by me saying, you're not allowed to desire me. You're not allowed to be attracted to this.
Yeah. I remember thinking that a lot. Like I was I remember thinking, I had that exact conversation with you. Hey, and I think it's helpful to have powerful conversations where you're kind but honest about things. Like I can tell that my attraction towards you is feeling affected by the vibe that you are presenting with the self-hatred. I mean, because I would try to be like, let's go get like a good outfit. Like, let's get some clothes that you like. And you were so grumpy and resistant.
Yeah, I felt so defeated and I felt so much like.
And I sat down and straight up told you like, hey, I'm not attracted to your self-hatred. Yeah. Like, I don't know what's going on. I can't control that. I love you and I love your body. It's your body. And like, I love that. I'm not struggling with attraction based on who you are. I'm struggling with attraction based on what you've got lost in. I need you to like you. I need you to decide that you're worthy of love here, because I want to do that. And you're not letting my love in. And also, it isn't attractive to be around somebody who doesn't think they're worthy of love. Yeah. That unworthiness is a very unattractive energy.
Yep. It's interesting. I've actually had a lot of couples where we'll use women, for example. Women have come in where they have actually put on a lot of weight through pregnancies and stuff like that. And men, I've actually heard the behind the scenes where men are like, oh, I think she's still beautiful. I really want to have sex with her right now. She doesn't want the lights on. She doesn't want to be around me and let me see her body. And it's chipping away at me because I think she's sexy. I love the way that her breasts are looking in this pregnancy. You know, I hear stuff like that all the time. And women are just like, I just know he doesn't like me. I just know that he thinks that I'm just too fat, and things like that come out of their mouth repeatedly. Yeah. And then I've watched as men start breaking. And they're suddenly like, yeah, I kind of not attracted anymore. But that battle might go 9 months, a year. That battle might be 5 years. And finally, the husband in the relationship was like, I tap out. Yeah. So you're right. I'm not attracted to you now. And then it's this self-fulfilling prophecy where you're like, I knew you weren't going to be attracted to me. It's like, because you wouldn't love yourself.
Totally. So the first thing, whether you're single or, because this was when I was single is when I wasn't engaging in love. And I really went on that journey separate from you. And I think that is part of what flipped your attraction. Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. I saw you embracing your femininity. I saw you feeling sexy. Like there were things that you would do where the timidness all of a sudden dissipated, and I'm like, ooh, I'm seeing her like herself, and I'm seeing she feels powerful, like she's owning her body, or she's owning this part of her life where once she felt like it's like when I watched your journey of becoming a speaker. Mm-hmm. My attraction for you rose so much inside of that, but not because you're on a platform speaking in front of people. Totally. But because I watched the journey of you embracing something that felt really scary for you. Mm-hmm. And then I kept watching it. Every time you'd face fear, you'd be like, I'm going to do it. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so hot. She's showing up to life and she's tackling this thing that feels really scary, and she is not backing down. And it's like this engagement with life that I watch, because like this other hiddenness is like death. If you were to convey it in that way, it was like, I see her trapped in death over here in her fear and her insecurities and self-hatred. And then over here, I see her engaging life, this abundant sense of I can face things and I'm strong and I don't have to be, I'm not easily defeated. And I was like, that's just hot watching that. Like you could have, instead of like embracing, if you didn't embrace speaking, it could have been embracing like a certain career move, or it wouldn't matter. It's just you coming alive was very attractive.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is an episode to inspire people, because I think one of the areas I saw with you is that powerless feeling to remember I have power. Even if my body's not working the way I want, I can't work out the way I want, or I can't, whatever it is, I have power to love who I am. I have power to make powerful decisions. I have power to become my most authentic self. I have power to like spend time being like, what is my shine? Where does my shine show up? And how am I covering that up? I have power to do that. And so there's if you embrace the power of this, you don't have to feel hopeless about attraction. Now, I want to talk about some of the components to attraction so that people actually understand. Besides what we just talked about is very practical. How the life energy people are showing up with. Confidence is attractive. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your body looks like. When you own you, it's attractive.
It really is. When
you rock the way, and when you look for like, how do I accentuate? And this is an interesting thing about like the self-love movement. I mean, I was on the self-love movement before it was like a movement. Yeah. You know, because I had to work on it so long. And one of the areas, I love me authentically. That's why I feel comfortable. Like multiple people are over at our house. I have makeup that is like mostly from yesterday worn off all over my face.
Totally.
It looks kind of like I've cried. I haven't done my hair. I have a migraine. I'm feeling really sick. I'm on a medication, like whatever. And I don't feel ugly at all. I feel comfortable letting people see me like this. I remember your mom like freaking out. She couldn't believe that I could be this comfortable.
Yeah.
Looking like
looking like this.
But I do. But in the midst of that, I actually think that loving myself is taking care of myself, is dressing for my body type, is accentuating how I look. I want to accentuate how I look. And I'm also going to do things that I like I wear cat eye eyeliner, and that may not look as good on me as I get older because of wrinkles, but I might still do it because I like it. Yeah. So I'm not saying you have to only do things that make you look good, but I am saying this is the thing I have power over, is taking whatever I'm at. And I know, because my body weight, I gain and lose 35 pounds based on a hormone cycle I have, where I can eat and work out the same amount and my body weight swings wildly. And so I've actually had to learn this, like, no, it's not about my body weight. It's about what I do with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's about how I carry it. It's about how I rock it. It's about how I show up.
And I think that going back to what I'd said about couples, and I'd use the example of men, but women have the same problem too. I've watched that whole thing flip, but I watch just the idea from one person to another, trying to fight the exhaustion to try and like, I'm trying to love you. I'm just trying to enjoy you. You won't let this happen. It's so difficult. It's burnt me out. That was one thought. I'm just kind of bunny trailing here, but I also wanted to say, when you're talking about confidence, confidence breeds safety. So to me, it feels safe knowing that someone knows who they are. You don't know what you're going to get with someone who doesn't love themselves, because they're up and down, like depending on where their pain points are and things like that. But someone who is like, I've just embraced me. This is who I am. I'm confident in who I am. What you see is what you get. I'm very authentic. People go, oh, I'm settled. I know what to expect out of this person. And safety is attractive, because we as people ultimately want to get towards safety. We want to get towards that comfort of having, I think in our brokenness, we need control in unhealthy ways.
Yeah.
But part of attraction is like, I feel like my environment's a little bit more controlled. It's not going to just be exploded because I know what I've signed up for with this person.
Now, if you're listening, I mean, both me and Justin have gone on self-love and acceptance journeys that have taken years. And it wasn't like I didn't like Justin until he got to self-acceptance. And it wasn't like he only got attracted to me once I fully accepted myself. Like every step towards self-acceptance increased attraction. And so it's not that you have to finish the line or that you're only worthy once you've overcome all of your insecurities. It really is that being comfortable. Like I think both of us now, it's not that we've overcome all of our insecurities. It's that we're just comfortable that we have insecurities.
Yeah, even that, like when we're at peace with our mess, right? You can feel the confidence in someone's peace with their messiness.
Yeah. I'm not fighting myself all the time. I'm not at war with myself all the time. I'm like, there's things about me that are still messy and I'm okay there.
Yeah, totally. There was something else you were saying that I was going to talk about with your attractiveness. Oh, there's different aspects that are still attractive. Like you're talking about like, hey, there are portions where we've been on this journey of growing in our own securities and stuff. And, there might be areas that maybe we've had less attraction in moments, but there's a million other aspects of attraction. So there's all these other places where I'm like, oh yeah, like there could be a season where Abby could look at me and go, I'm attracted this percent to Justin because there's all these other areas that are shining that are great.
Sure.
And so just keep that in mind. It's not like you have to have every area down or if you have one area off, that's like going on a journey
of being unattractive.
Yeah.
Okay, so one thing I want to talk about is attraction is often connected to triggers.
Yeah.
Especially in relationship. If you're with somebody and you find yourself less attracted to them, huge chances that there are triggers going on that you are building up walls. So when I am not fully honest or not fully myself or have pain and don't feel safe, when I put up walls between us, that often affects our attraction. And it's meant to, like, this is a protector of ours, right? So if I feel less attractive to somebody that I think is going to hurt me, I'm going to be less vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like, so it is designed to protect us when we're around.
Going back to safety. I had injected that earlier. So like you said, when you get triggered, it's, I'm not feeling safe here inside of this.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of, I have several men that I'm thinking of that I've worked with whose wives, their emotions felt really erratic and they didn't know what to do with it. And part of it was the husbands who were terrified of emotions and hadn't gone on their own journey to learn what emotions are and what to do with emotions. So it was their own fear and judgments. And then part of it was the wives who hadn't learned what to do with their emotions. But the men were scared. They didn't feel safe because it felt like their wives could just flip on them. It felt like their wives could just tell them that they weren't enough or blame them for anything they were doing wrong. And so I watched them become less and less attractive. And I knew their wives and their wives were as hot as ever. It wasn't like their wives were going into self-hatred. It wasn't like their wives were like defeated in life. Like they were, by most people's, like by the world's standards, they were very beautiful women. But their husbands weren't attracted because they didn't feel safe.
Right.
They didn't feel like they could have a voice. They didn't feel like they could be known. They didn't know what they were going to get. And so they're self-protectors. And I've seen this with wives towards their husbands too. If the husband is gruff or doesn't know how to be comforting or have compassion or validate her feelings, she will just find herself less and less. And that's why I loved having Pizzi and Johnny on here. We'll probably do another episode with them about it. But the safer Johnny got for Pizzi's emotions, the more she wanted to have sex with him. Like it's a subconscious.
Do you hear that, guys?
It's crazy. I wish men understood it.
They want more sex.
Men who want sex, there's a way to get it. Do the pathway to freedom.
Yeah. That's legit.
Which also, I forgot to say this, but this is our last. You have like 2 more weeks to sign up for the life consulting masterclass that we're doing. We're doing our first year of we're starting our first year of school again. It starts soon.
Yeah.
It's a year-long school. If you want to either fully radically transform your life or you want to become a life consultant, I highly recommend it, but we do it only once a year. Do we have signups? So this is your one shot.
Year-long school with very, very limited number of people who get into it.
You have to do an application process.
But that application deadline is September 1st. If you want to know more about that, lfa@stumballconsulting.com. You can email us, and our assistant will help you with that.
Yeah. But honestly, men out there who want more sex, the pathway to freedom is like the best thing you could do.
It should be called the pathway to sex. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. It's if you learn how to understand emotions and how to be compassionate and validating and how to become safe within yourself and for your partner. If you think about attraction, the picture I have is like me being wide open. And the opposite of attraction is me like being closed. And I literally imagine like my arms coming up as like protecting me in front of me, or my arms coming back and being wide open. Well, triggers are like that. So if your partner has an anger problem, you could just stop sexually wanting them. And that's literally just your brain trying to protect you.
Right.
And so attraction level is not something I'm scared of inside of relationships. I'm like, oh, it is a thermometer to let you know if you're feeling less attracted. It means you need to connect to your heart and figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
What unsafe behavior is happening, because there is a reason. It makes sense. There's some reason why you are at the place that you're at.
And let's talk about this. When she says what unsafe behavior, that doesn't mean there's an unsafe behavior happening from a spouse.
Yeah.
That could be perceived unsafety. That could, because like even in this, when Abby's talking about the idea of a trigger, which they go through in the pathway to freedom, we can perceive a circumstance that isn't real, but it hits on childhood wounds inside of us. And all of a sudden we gridlock down and we go, oh, I don't feel safe right now. I don't want to be around this person. I'm not attracted to this person. But literally it could have been, you know, I could make up something stupid. It could be the way that they chew their cereal every morning, remind you of your childhood when your grandfather like ate cereal and then would freak out because you'd go over to see grandpa. And it literally is, again, a triggered state. But if you become self-aware inside of yourself. Of
knowing either what is going on inside of you or what is going on. And then even, you know what really helps attraction is being honest.
Yeah.
A lot of times, a big reason that people stop being attractive is they stop being honest with their partner. They stop sharing their own feelings. They're afraid, they're trying to protect, and whatever that does, it shuts them down. I've seen that happen time and time and time again, where a partner will end up opening up with the thing that they're afraid to be vulnerable about. And then all of a sudden they'll have the best sex they've ever had.
Yes.
Because letting down your walls breeds attraction.
And, I mean, there's something to say for hormones that are just raging, and then you smell those pheromones, and right? Like we're not talking about that.
I don't even
hot, sexy, musky smell. That's what's really attractive. You know, you get a good scent of a perfume or a cologne, and
you're still talking. Hasn't once been funny to me. I don't even know where you're going with it, but I'm glad you interrupted me for that.
Yeah.
You have more to say?
Nope, that's it. That is it.
Okay. I'm not trying to poop on your joke. I literally just didn't get it.
No, I know. And that's the thing with her. Like, she doesn't have necessarily the best sense of humor, which is okay. Like, the things that she does get that I'm saying, I'm like, that is enough. I need you to laugh at like 60% of the things that I say. I will feel celebrated. Me and my buddy Craig will laugh at 100% of things and eventually run off together.
Yeah. That's funny. Okay. I want to talk about another part of attraction that I did find funny.
So, that felt like real laughter.
Yeah, it was. Okay. So one of the things that happens when we're triggered, we talk about this in Pathway, is we can go back to our little kid version. So when you do something that reminds me of my childhood, my little girl can show up. And this happened a lot in our marriage. When we first got married, it was happening all the time, where there's like woman Abby and there's little kid Abby. And I see this happen with my clients all the time. And you can feel little kids, like when my little kid comes up, it's like, I'm never going to be okay. Nothing's ever going to be okay. My little kid is really weak and powerless and scared. And that's not a bad part of me. Like that's a part that I've embraced, and I've worked on reparenting and integrating her in. But if you're operating out of your little kid a lot, that often isn't attractive to somebody else. And rightfully so. They should be attracted to adult you. Not kid you, or else they will be a pedophile. But the concept would be, and there's times like Justin, when he went on his speaking journey, he definitely went back to his little kid self.
Yeah, there are definitely times I reverted to
you didn't stay there, but you had your little kid self show up, and then
that looked like me feeling severely insecure, melting down and crying and feeling inadequate.
Yeah. And so you allowed that to come up, and you reparented that part of you and spoke myself. Truth over that part of you and went on the healing journey. And then you went through that into stepping into confidence and facing your fear. And it wasn't that you needed to not be insecure. It's that you stepped into the adult version of yourself, which is, I'm going to face this fear head on.
Which is powerful. Again, that act of facing fear is deeply attractive.
Yeah. And they actually say facing fear is how you build self-esteem. It's how you build self-worth. When you face something you're scared of and you do it anyway, it tells yourself that you feel proud of yourself. But you became an adult, powerful part of yourself. And now in speaking, you're very powerful and confident in it. But if you don't understand the kid and adult version of stuff, it will be confusing. You'll feel like shut off in attraction towards your partner when they're in their little kid.
Yeah. I know that that was another interesting part of your journey where I was on and off attracted to you at times, because I would watch you melt down into this little tiny thing. And
it's like little 3-year-old.
Yeah. And it didn't feel a lot of times like you were able to show up and reparent yourself when we talk about reparenting.
Nope.
It was me actually trying.
Honestly, I didn't even know I had a little kid back then. It was all brand new.
Which even, it's interesting, the little the child work, the inner child work, that for us, that was, I remember you were melting down. And now I've read in psychology books that people do this, but I was like, I had no idea that this was like
totally
a psychology thing that other people did. I noticed that you suddenly felt like you were 5 to 10 years old, somewhere within that space. And I felt this inner thing be like, talk to that 5-year-old.
Yeah.
Have a conversation with that. So that's where I start discovering like, hey, is little 10-year-old Abby doing okay? Where's she at? What's happening? And that's where I kind of had that revelation. But for me, I was having to carry you through that a lot of times.
Oh, I was like, I felt trapped as the little kid. Because most of the time, if I'm triggered enough that I'm back as my little kid self, it means I'm not regulated.
No.
And I didn't know what was going on. This is why
it hijacked your whole brain and everything.
It hijacked my whole brain and my body. This is why me and Pete taught the course, The Pathway to Freedom, because the more you understand about what's going on in your brain, in your body, in your emotions, then you don't have to feel powerless to it. And like, there's no hope. So I felt completely trapped. So you would help me. And then that was the only thing that I knew helped.
Yeah.
So then I was a little girl that was dependent on you anytime I was a little girl.
And that became like, oh, I'm taking care of a child versus having an equal a partner that's showing up adult to adult.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people and you're not bad for that. Like those, and people who like resonate with this and like, oh my gosh, I totally do that. It's like, that's okay. Now you have an awareness of it. You, as you begin to show up as an adult for your own little child self and not feel like you're leaning on your partner to be your source of life and to be everything. All of a sudden they're like, oh, okay, I'm not parenting you. Yeah. I'm partnering with you.
Yeah. And I found that, a lot of women feel unattracted to their husbands when they feel like they're parenting their husbands.
Completely.
When they feel like they're taking care of everything for them.
Yes. I on that note, I have a rant in my head that I'm not going to go too deep into it, but I've watched guys that all of a sudden they have a family. They have multiple kids. Their wife is taking care of the kids. they're hiding in their basement playing video games. They're not showing up to take care of the kids, take care of the house, participate. And I don't think that's universally all men. I'm just saying I've seen men that do that and they revert to little boys in their overwhelm.
Yes, they're triggered, they're overwhelmed, they're scared. And so they're hiding in what is safety to them.
Yeah. And all of a sudden the wife is like, I don't feel attracted to a child. I already have a child over here.
Yeah.
I don't need another child.
Yes.
I need a powerful man.
Right.
And again, you're not bad if you hit that spot. It's when you see like, oh yeah, I'm actually in child self as a man. You're like, oh, I'm showing up as a little boy. How do I rectify that?
Yeah. And this is something I'd say and I want to make sure that we don't gender classify, because the truth is you were that role for me. I was the one that was incapable and you felt much more like
completely
the parent. So it could be guys or girls. There's lots of women that are overwhelmed and shut down, and their husbands struggle with they want them to feel confident and powerful. One of the things I was thinking is it's not that you need to avoid having your little kid show up, because there's no way to do that. You can't just shove your little kid down.
No.
That's the opposite. They will take over more of your life
until they get attention.
A
kid will throw a tantrum until it gets attention.
So, and I would say like there's areas where Justin still goes into his little kid. And there's areas where I still go into my little kid. I think we have more confidence now that we will take care of that.
Yeah.
And move through that and not get stuck in it.
Yeah. I watch you suddenly go like, oh, I know how to handle this. Maybe not in the moment. Maybe there's something happening, but even knowing how to handle it there's a phone call to Pizzi. There's a meeting with your somatic experience therapist, or there's self doing something with God where you're having a self dialogue inside of it. But I'm watching like, oh, I can actually do something about this. I'm like, oh, okay, that's great.
Yeah. So this is a huge part of attraction that people aren't aware of, that I think is really important to do. On this note, I want to kind of transition into attachment system attraction. And this is really dicey. I find this fascinating in singleness. Secure attachment. Me and Pizzi were just having this conversation today. Secure attachment can be boring. Can look boring.
Describe what secure attachment is for people, because nobody in general.
So secure attachment is you feel comfortable having needs and being honest and sharing what's going on inside of you, because you know that the person that you're attached to loves you, wants to be with you, wants to lean in and meet your needs. Secure attachment is where you're not constantly thinking all the time, do they like me? You're not all the time self-conscious. Like, oh no, what if I did this wrong? Are they going to be mad about this? Secure attachment is where you literally have peace in your mind.
And peace in your being.
Because you know this person. Like I would say me and Justin are working on creating secure attachment. But there are areas, I think a secure attachment is like a spectrum. So there's areas that we have it. I have zero fear that Justin is going to run off with somebody else. I have zero fear that he is going to leave me. Like I know he chooses me. Like I feel chosen.
Yeah.
Now there's other areas that we don't have secure attachment, and we're growing in that. But secure attachment is, where you actually know somebody loves you and is choosing you.
Yeah.
And they feel safe within themselves. They have no problem having needs. Secure attachers aren't as afraid of conflict because they don't feel like it's going to destroy the relationship.
And secure attachers, I would say it feels like there's like minimalized drama.
Yeah.
Because they're just like, I don't need drama. I don't need to act out.
They're not doing it. They're not. So unsecure attachment, like there's lots of different ways that you do that. But most of the time people are trying to get their love needs met. And they do it through dramatic ways.
Yeah.
They do it through throwing a fit, causing drama. How do I get you to prove that you love me? So
declaring that you're suicidal, just like anything. Like, can I get you to...
Or like accusing you of cheating on me.
Blame games, yeah.
Or like moving in and out. Like, I just took off and like barely talked to you for a week, but now I'm back and I want all of your attention. Like, there's a lot of emotional games that are played. And that is addictive and fun to people. And they wouldn't say that it's fun, but people choose it because it's familiar. And people are constantly trying to figure out how to reconcile with their childhood. So they're finding somebody who attaches similar to whoever they were around in their childhood.
Yeah.
And they're playing the games. And so a lot of people mistake attraction for the game. And here's how it works. You're around somebody and you decide, I want to win them. And then maybe, so you're really attracted to them until you win them. And then maybe you're still attracted to them for a little while, or maybe then you move on because now you've won the game and you want to do it again.
Yeah.
You know, there's like, you choose somebody that's in hot and cold, because the game of hot and cold means you're basically, what it is anytime you get them to be hot towards you, you feel endorphins in your body like you've won. And so it gives you this high. And then when they get cold towards you, you go right back into that. How do I get them to be hot towards me again? How do I? And so the attachment dance creates a concept of attraction that is a dysfunctional one.
Right. It's perceived as, oh, this is attraction versus like, no, this is just a firing up of all of my emotions, both insecurity and winning moments and stuff like that.
And I'd say, honestly, I think that half of our attraction when we met was dysfunction. Like, I think genuinely, I felt like, oh, you're like home. And now I was left because Rachel was like, yeah, when you feel like somebody's like home to you, it's probably because they probably were like your childhood in a million different ways. And it's probably something that is familiar. And I think there was an attraction we had to each other's brokenness.
Totally.
There was a lot of ways I showed up like your mom. There's a lot of ways you showed up like my parents. Like,
I've actually, and this is interesting because we're talking about getting healthy and that creating attraction. I'm going to throw a flip side of the coin to that.
Yeah.
There's some people that will get healthy and it will cause people to get unattracted.
Absolutely.
Because all of a sudden you're not participating in the dysfunction.
In the game anymore.
In the game that made the attraction happen. What they defined as a draw or an attraction.
Yeah.
But to healthy people who are in a healthy place, as you get more healthy, that's actually healthily attractive.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to actually, like, I know for me, and I know for...
Oh, I was going to say this.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Please do.
I've seen people fall out of attraction with people as they get powerful because they were attracted based on codependency. So an unhealthy, not actual attraction, but a draw was like, oh, I get to fix you. I get to fix you, right? And then they become powerful and they're like, there's no fixing anymore.
Yeah.
Wait, I don't feel like there's any point in being here.
Yeah.
I don't feel any value. I feel exposed. I don't feel value inside of this relationship. There's nowhere that I can show up in their head. That's the story. Like, they're just good now. Oh, maybe there's just not any more attraction.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's very true. If you have a lot of attraction can be based on dysfunction. Like, you can feel really attracted to somebody, and like you said, it's actually because you want to fix them.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And you can feel really attracted to somebody because maybe they're avoidant and you're trying to win them. And there's so many different reasons that we do that. It's important to be aware of that when you're single, for sure. Trying to like just recognize. I always tell people, if you feel instant chemistry with somebody, that's something you need to pay attention to, and not necessarily in a good way.
Yeah. It's not like you guys
typically
were meant to be
means
soulmates.
There's some kind of vibe that your frequencies have, and that might not be the best.
Mm-hmm.
But it also means if you are in a dynamic, I've seen this happen a lot, where people grew up in crazy childhoods. There's chaos all the time, and they meet somebody who's stable and kind and patient and gracious and good. And
it's repulsive.
And they're bored. And they feel zero attraction. And
you're like, this is such a good person. Nah, I don't know. There's just something about them. I don't know what it is. I just don't feel right about it.
Yeah. I feel like something's missing. I feel like there's not. And honestly, it's because their body and their nervous system is used to being on alert at all times, that being around somebody that isn't a threat actually doesn't feel safe to
so
them.
They start making a threat out of them. I'm going to push them till they explode and become a threat.
Well, some people do that, but some people actually just are like, I don't know that I can be with them because they're too boring. And I mean, I think there are genuinely times when people are boring if they're not connected to themselves.
Yes.
If they aren't connected to their passion,
not connected to
they
life.
can be safe, and that's a real thing. Yeah. But I do want to just put this out there that sometimes I've had to do this. I've had to become friends with people who were boring to me because they actually were healthy and in really great ways. But it was different than my childhood was.
Yeah. You talked about, you used the P word.
I don't even remember what the
passion.
Passion.
I think of the word passion, and that is kind of reflective on the powerful thing. Like when I see someone passionate about something that's so attractive, there's life, right? Like they're connecting with their own personal life energy. It's like you could have a passion for, I don't know, shaving sheep. I just love shearing sheep. Shearing sheep is so delightful, and all the things you can do with sheared sheep, their hair. I don't know, but there's an excitement, like where there's a spark that comes up in their soul and a sparkle in their eye as they dialogue about something. Now, someone who's overly consumed can be with a
if
quote,
you
unquote,
dissociate
passion,
into your passion,
there it is.
Then you are not present there. People are never going to be attracted to you if you're dissociated from yourself, because that's being the shiny version of you is being connected to yourself.
Yes, that
when if you get a hobby that consumes you and you become really passionate about it, but you become consumed by it, it's like you're hiding. You've blanketed your shiny self, and now you just talk all day long about sheep shearing.
Totally. And I've had people who, now I'm using that example, who talk about, I don't know, maybe a sports, whether it's football,
car
hunting,
racing,
fishing, I don't know, maybe we'll use fishing or something. And I love their passion about it, but it's so they've dissociated into it, and there's not the balance. So the balance component is what I was getting to with this, is like, we want to see, if we really want to create attraction around our world, our heart must come alive to something that we're passionate about uniquely, and have the balance of living present in the life and not all consumed with it. Yeah.
So it's beautiful to have confidence, to have passion, to have things you love. What we're talking about is having a sense of self.
Yeah.
But if you lose yourself in those things, and if you don't know who you are, then those things actually can take over.
And like she said, you can have someone who is all that, right? They are all confident, and they're not attractive to another person who isn't, who doesn't have a sense of self, who needs the chaos or needs the mess. But what we're handing here is a conversation over to everyone to start asking, like, and thinking outside the box, because we know that both in dating relationships and married relationships, it's very easy to minimize this idea of not being attracted down to like, well, I'm just not attracted anymore. I guess I'm just going to.
It's just their body, or it's just their, or maybe we shouldn't be together. When there's so much more to explore to actually understand. I didn't mean to cut you off. What were you saying?
No, that's great. You know, it's beginning that internal question is, does this have to do, like, if my partner isn't attracted to me? Now, when shame is involved, this is a really hard, we're going to wrap this up in a second, but when shame's involved, oftentimes there's a meltdown that will happen. Like, my partner's not attracted to me. And instead of like looking to either blame myself or blame them, the investigation begins like, I wonder if there is a way that I'm participating in this that could provoke that. Yeah. Am I fully
It doesn't mean I'm bad.
It doesn't mean I'm bad.
If somebody's not, like, you not being attractive to me doesn't mean I'm bad.
No.
It means there's something going on that we actually have the power to look at and to work through.
Shame-free investigation becomes a matter-of-fact conversation. It's just like, oh, matter of fact, like, I don't think I am showing up in these ways. I'm not owning my life. And if I did, it would probably not only create attraction in this relationship, but probably attract a lot of good things to my life in general. And then there's the other side of it of like, no, I actually am investigating. My friends are, saying like, hey, you really are alive. You're really owning a lot of things. You're being confident. And you go, oh, maybe my partner isn't attracted to me because there's something going on in their world. Yeah. And that's okay to ask, like, hey, what's happening inside of you?
Well, and I think what you're saying is really important. Every attraction conversation should be both people.
Yeah.
What is going on in each of us?
A shame-free investigation
that is contributing to the attraction issue. What are we both bringing to that table? Are we being curious about what's happening? so that and like not blaming, like if you go to your partner and you say, I'm not attracted to you because Justin and Abi said that you're acting like a kid and it's not attractive. That's not going to go over well.
No.
It's not going to work. What can work is bringing up, like you could maybe say, can we listen to this together and talk about what it brings up for us? But the concept of I'm recognizing that I'm having some emotions. I'm wondering if these are there. Could we talk through this?
Yeah. And I want to tear down the wall and I want to build a bridge into the capacity to perpetuate, attraction inside of this space. And I think that what you'll realize is that you won't feel so powerless. Like a dialogue like this starts getting us as human beings out of the powerlessness of relationships happening to us, right? It's not just, I'm no longer just trapped in a marriage. I'm no longer trapped in this dating relationship. There's maybe actually some adjustments that can happen. I don't have to just hit an eject button. And again, going back to the blame conversation, I don't just have to play a blame game back and forth.
Yeah.
I don't have to figure out who the villain is that's causing all this. Rather, I get to explore, and that can be connective. Like it can, if shame's not there, two people can be like, oh, I felt so connected. You got really vulnerable and said like, yeah, I'm not showing up here. And I got really vulnerable and talked about like how I'm not feeling safe because I have triggers in my own life about these types of issues that I need to deal with. And it really is beautiful inside of that.
Yeah. I think like you responded really well when I had the conversation with you about not being attracted to you.
Yeah.
Because you actually, and I didn't say I am not attracted to you. I said, I can tell that there is something going on where I can feel.
What was the phrase? It was, you're disgusting to me. Is that how that, and you just like kind of were really blunt about it.
That's exactly how I
and
started.
I was like,
I'd highly recommend it.
What does that mean? Is it my hygiene specifically? Like,
no.
No, it was, and I think did I approach that actually and talk about it, or did you?
I brought it up. I brought it up and I said,
that's right. Cause I
can feel your self-hatred.
Yeah,
it's very unattractive to me. I understand your body is where it is.
Yeah,
I don't have
blunt,
judgments.
But it was kind.
I don't have judgments on where your body is.
Yeah.
I love you, but your self-hatred is going to make it so that I end up losing attraction.
Yeah. And I will say this, it was a hard pill to swallow in some aspect, but I responded really well.
You did.
Because I was like, this is matter of fact information. And she's not here to tear me down.
Yeah.
This wasn't like, I'm not attracted to, disgust me. It was, hey, I'm actually giving you an invitation into the reality of what I'm perceiving as happening here, because I actually want to engage more depth connection. And
it was encouragement of like, I love you.
Right.
I want you to love you.
Yeah.
And
I remember sitting back on that, that lump forms in your throat and you kind of swallow it and you're like, ugh, yep, this is on me. And it wasn't, this is on me and blame. It was ownership. This is on me. I'm perpetuating this. I can do something about this. I can go actually have a good war with myself until I get to resolution. Yeah. And it was a gift to me. And it was that next phase of deepening a connection to compassion and empathy and love inside of my life that in a lot of ways I felt like I'd conquered, but I, now got to go to the deeper places of it. And I was very thankful for it.
Yeah.
Not fun, but thankful.
Yeah. I mean, and you actually turned around, you engaged self-love, and it was,
I did. And I really was, I was really willing to be like, if my body never heals and this is where I end up staying at, then okay.
Yeah.
This is what it's going to be.
So we want you guys to feel empowered in life. We have conversations like this first to just expose, because I think so many people feel powerless to this concept, but attraction is something you can actually get curious about. You can seek to understand, and there's always there's always solutions. Victim mentality says this is just how it is. And shame says it's just that I'm bad. That's why you're not attracted to me, or that's why I'm not attracted to you because you're bad. Whereas if you get rid of shame and victim mentality, there's a million things we can figure out that contribute to attraction, and we can figure out what's going on in our hearts, and we can figure out what to do about that.
I know
if you're dating, you can decide if you want to do that work with somebody or not.
Yeah. I know that we're wrapping this up, but something that just flashed through my head was not just relationship with self and judgment, but external judgment. Mm-hmm. This is just a one random piece that popped up.
I know where you're going. We got to say it.
Yeah. Well, maybe you don't know, I don't know. But when we are actively engaging judgment to the world around us, it's very unattractive. It's not in agreement with gratitude. It's not in agreement with hope. It's not in agreement with kindness. And the nature of love, the nature of kindness and gentleness and patience and peace, like all of that nature is something that awakens the human heart and is a huge draw. So a lot of times, literally just a deep relationship with judgment about life and seeing people through this lens of harshness and stuff will repel people, because like going back to the idea of safety, it's like, you're going to turn that sword towards me. Yeah. I'm always like on the other end of that. And so that's another simple thing. Like if you want to become super attractive to the world around you, whether it's in a romantic relationship or any other thing, really get honest with, how judgy am I towards the world around me? How harsh am I towards the way that I view life? I know that for myself, I came into the marriage with an immense amount of judgment, and it was my self-protector. Yeah. Like if I could declare somebody's a complete asshole, then I could keep them at a distance from me. And it's not attractive, because kindness and embracing people and seeing the beauty of who people are, that is really a draw.
Yeah, that wasn't what I was going to say, but it also inspired a great thought for me. So thank you for saying it.
Okay, keep it short.
I know. One thing we didn't cover about attraction. I had a really good friend of mine, and she wasn't attracted to her husband, and he was very good looking, but she wasn't attracted for all of her own self-judgment. Yep. So she judged herself about how perfect she had to be with eating and how perfect she had to be with exercising. So she would watch him. And if he wasn't judging himself by her huge, harsh standards, if he wasn't following the rules as much as she was, then she would not be attracted to him. Yeah. And so she actually, and this is what I love about her, she was self-aware enough to start to recognize her self-hatred was what she was projecting onto him. So when she would find herself being like, he's not attractive, she would go to herself and be like, where is it that I'm not being kind to myself? Where is it that I'm not saying I'm lovable and worthy? Yeah. And she learned to be kind to herself and to start to silence her inner critic towards herself. And that quelled the judgment towards him. Right. Like some of attraction issues can be based on how you are judging yourself. And I have found that to be true in our marriage, because you have learned to love yourself unconditionally. Your body has gone up and down. You don't have judgments towards me when my body goes up and down. No, I don't. Because you have accepted yourself in the different seasons. There's an acceptance for me in the different seasons. And I want there to be known, there's a difference between acceptance and like not taking care of yourself. Yes. Both me and Justin work hard to take care of ourselves. Mm-hmm. So our bodies have fluctuated, but I don't want that. Acceptance does not mean that you just don't care. Yeah, there's a movement of what's called acceptance, and it's just like, oh, I am just not going to show up to life, have no self-value. I don't need to work out. I'm accepting myself. I'm not participating with life. Yeah. Yeah, and it's like, oh, that's not acceptance. No, that's just silly. That's complacency. Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. Not becoming complacent, but becoming like embracing, like, this is where I'm at in my journey. Yeah. And I'm showing up to it. Yeah. Step by step. So thanks for sharing that little tidbit of wisdom at the end there. Yeah, you too. Yeah. Hey, everybody. You get out there. We need you to get out there and rate, review, and subscribe and share to these podcasts. You know, I've gotten so many messages recently from people who are like, I don't know how I found your podcast, but somebody shared about it on Instagram or somebody texted it to me, and it's changed my whole life. And I was like, I wonder if people know that just sharing it is transforming people's lives. Yeah. It is. And you're the hands and feet out there. Thank you for all that you've done in sharing. Absolutely. We're as of this podcast, we've hit 3 million downloads. Woo! Whoa, that was a little harsh in these headphones over here. Sorry. Thanks for that. It's a big deal because downloads
Yeah.
don't even represent how many listens.
No. And but it represents a very small amount of actual listens.
Yeah.
But it's really cool because you guys have all been the voices and the faces of our podcast force because we don't do video. We're actually going to begin the process in this next year converting to video where you'll be able to watch us on YouTube, but we're working on those plans and stuff. But right now, so because there's not that face, you are the face of the Connected Life. You are out there sharing it and telling people like, no, really, these guys are really awesome. Let me tell you about them. And you're describing it in a way that's digestible and people are joining on and finding healing and health. And we're loving the stories that are coming out of that. And so we've even had people make mention because of the way that people are reviewing, even reviewing on iTunes. Go do that because when you do that, people are like, oh my gosh, I read like dozens of reviews that were 5-star and what they had to say about it. And I decided that I'd participate. And oh my gosh, it was so easy to jump on board this experience because people went before you guys and shared their experience. And so do that.
And if you need to feel powerful, because we just told you a bunch about attraction, and you're like, I don't know how to get out of my powerlessness. I don't know how to get out of my little kid. I don't know what's even going on inside of me and where I feel unsafe. I highly recommend the Pathway to Freedom. We run it once a year. We're about to run it.
September 14th is going to be the launch date. September 13th, it's wrapping up.
I honestly believe it will change. I mean, we know it. We've seen it. It changes people's lives. We make every consultant we train go through it because it's super important. So email us at lfa@stumble. Nope, just kidding.
No, if you want to get into Pathway to Freedom, you just get onto Justin and Abi. That's abi.com.
Oh, yeah. Easy.
And you go to our courses.
You don't got to email us. You just click it.
No, if you want to know more about our life consulting masterclass, that's where you email us.
Yeah.
Okay. So with all that said, man, this was a pretty good episode.
I like you. I feel attracted.
Well, it's probably because I've been here doing this podcast completely naked.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that didn't happen. I wasn't naked. Not this time. I should do a podcast. Well, we did do a podcast naked. When we did the tub time.
Oh, yeah, that was nice.
Was really fun hanging out in the tub with people.
Yeah.
Don't imagine it, though, if you listen to that episode. Don't you get those images out of your head right now.
Unless they're really, really good images, then go ahead and keep them in there.
Hey, love you all.
Love you.
Goodbye.